Hello everybody! So in the last video, we saw the essentials of how the simulator worked, how the creatures worked, and what our goal was. Just before the end, we started to go through several generations. Now we're going to see what those few generations produced. Okay, so now that that's done, we can see that the creatures have a lot more structure to them. This creature has some structure and it's being able to move. It's not fantastic, but it is making some distance across the terrain, which is exactly what we're looking for. We can keep looking at different creatures. This one's kind of interesting. Kind of impressive he's standing up. And yeah, so now that we actually have these creatures which have some interesting structure, we can look at the fitness graph and we can see much more interesting pattern where the creature has some general upwards trend, meaning that it's actually moving, but we can see these remnants of these sinusoidal patterns that come from the muscles oscillating as they do. Yeah, so we can kind of just see all these interesting creatures. This one seems to be hopping, which is kind of interesting. And yeah, so I'm just going to play through some of them. Yeah, so we can see that these steps here correspond to the creature essentially jumping off the ground, which is really interesting. So that's pretty good, but these creatures obviously aren't still very refined. They still have a lot of improvements to make. So let's do a few more generations. Maybe we'll go up to 7, perhaps. We'll see. 7 or 10, we'll see. So now we have creatures that are much more refined. So this creature, let's see the stats about it. So you can see it's stepping more regularly. Again, it's still not perfect, but it has 5 nodes, 2 bones, and 5 muscles, which is about the same as the average. You can see how it moves. It moves linearly. What I've found is that for the most part, if a creature if the trend of the creature is a straight line, it means that they're very good because it implies that they're always moving at their maximum speed. But yeah, so this creature is making it pretty far. This creature is moving differently. It's moving in big jumps. So this might be a descendant of that creature we saw earlier which jumped. But this one has a few mutations that make it jump faster. So you can see it's getting up to 60, 80, 70, and so on. So this creature is pretty good. Oh, and then it gets turned around. Well, yeah. Expect it to happen. So we can actually, I forgot to show this before, we can see the generation graph. So typically, this curve tends to slow down as the generations go on, but this one actually found some improvement here. So what that generally means is that it's found some new way of moving, and then it causes like rapid improvements because it's got this new avenue to explore. But yeah, so these creatures are all really cool. They're all doing exactly what we asked them to. Well, some of them are totally wrong. See, this one is jumping again, and again they get turned around. So I'm assuming that bone is there to kind of anchor them, and it lets them get from about here to there, but then it then has to turn it around because of that weight. So yeah, so it's kind of interesting just to look at all the different types of motion, even though some of them aren't amazing. So I think at this point I'm just going to go for end game, maybe 20 generations or so, and see what the final product is. What do we get at the very end of all of this simulating? Okay, so that went on for a little bit more than I was expecting, but now we have this new type of creature, and wow, that's really weird. Okay, so it jumps in really big jumps. Let's look at that. Yeah, so it jumps in very large steps, which is not typical. Like, typically the whole jumping creature works for earlier generations, but once you get to the end game stuff, it tends to be a little bit worse. But I guess, I mean, if it finds that it works, then it works, right? So let's see how far. Oh, and then he kind of stops, so maybe that's not the ideal creature. Yeah, so this creature seems to be a little bit better at jumping. It can make it quite a bit farther, at least twice as far, I think. But yeah, so it kind of has an interesting pattern. So the way that these creatures works is basically, because the muscles can oscillate at different rates, it kind of waits until they get in sync to the point where, I mean, I don't exactly know, but until the creature gets into the right configuration that lets it spring up all at once. So it kind of puts its muscles at the right location and so on, so that when all the muscles contract in sync, it like kind of falls back and then it snaps right back up, which is kind of interesting. So I guess that is the end game creature. It is the best creature that this could produce. Now, I could keep going for a while. It doesn't look like it's completely done. It looks like it could still improve, but it's pretty... This is essentially, it's fixed on this type of creature. So, and it's very rare for me to find simulations that have these jumping creatures, like I said, but I guess... So we'll just let this run for a while and see all the creatures that it produces. That's the basic way that this simulator works and what it can produce. I'll mention that the highest creature, or the highest population average that I've ever seen was 560, I think 8, but around 560. So this is not by any means a fantastic solution, but it is still a pretty good one. It can move about here on average. And I'm sure if we let it run longer, we would find even better solutions. But yeah, so with that, thank you for watching, and stay tuned because I'm going to be making more updates about different terrains, different environments, hopefully different creatures, and so on. There should be a lot of cool stuff coming. And let me know if you have any thoughts or ideas or things that you want to see or things that I might have missed, and I'll make sure to look into them. So thanks. Bye.